Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and this is, of course, your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. And guess what? Today is Friday. So, like every Friday, Julie and I have a free-for-all Friday where we talk about whatever's on the top of our minds. Now, I'm going to give you guys a special warning. On Friday, sometimes we talk about real estate coaching and training stuff, and sometimes we don't. Today, I think we are going to talk about mostly real estate coaching and training because we have taken on personally quite a few new elite coaching clients. An elite coaching client is someone who's at the absolute top of their game, and they're working with Julie and I directly, personally being coached by either Julie or myself. We have a lot of coaches that work for us. We have a very large coaching program that we design called Premier Coaching. We design that, frankly, everyone can have access to, which includes a daily summary private coaching call. But typically what happens is people come into Premier Coaching and they'll progress. And some of them will want to have essentially the highest level coaching we offer right away. And that's what elite coaching is all about. And so most of our elite coaching clients are folks, it's interesting, the batch that we've taken on in the last month have been a big variety, but where the ones that are finding their way into my schedule are mostly folks that are done trying things, that are done experimenting, that are tired of being told to do things that they know don't work. And also a lot of folks that are not really very ego-driven, not really wanting to be influencers, not really wanting to be famous. They're wanting to be rich where their money works for them, and they no longer have to work for the money. That seems to be the reason that a lot of them are wanting to hire Julie and I, is because they want to get to the point where they're financially independent. That's our primary driver. It always has been ever since Julie and I got into real estate. If you ask us why we got into real estate originally, we would have told you exactly what I'll tell you today. We got into real estate so that we could produce enough net profit so we could buy, but this is initially what it was. This was, 26 years ago. But yeah, we got into real estate because we wanted to have produce a lifestyle that was no longer dependent on the sweat of our own brows, where we could live off the cash flow from in that, when we were formulating our original plan, it was from rental properties. Now we've developed it into many more things other than rental properties, or rather, I should say, in addition to rental properties. But the moral of the story is our original vision was always to be rich. And we didn't even have a clear definition of what that meant. Rich, I know, has that word even itself has a lot of social taboos with certain folks. And I get it. I mean, it sort of did with my parents when I was growing up too. Rich people were all these, not very positive words. But what I realized, and Julie and I realized, is all riches is where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. And what that meant specifically was we wanted to get to the point where when we woke up in the morning and we had set a timeline. So we've been married for 34 years this year, Julie. You realize that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you better, right? Next month on the 15th.
Next month. 30, that's right.
Right. So we got married when we were 20 and 21. And over that time, like when we started selling real estate together, the whole vision was to, again, have enough net profit, then to turn that net profit into paid off rental properties so that we could then retire by the time we were before 40. Now, that seems like a really lofty goal in retrospect for someone who was in their 20s, early 20s, to have set for themselves, but that is indeed what we did. And we had a lot of other goals along the way too, but that was our big driver. So when we were, and I'm not saying we stayed true to that mission our entire careers, real estate careers, but we pretty much did. And that was always what we were trying to do. Now, did we accomplish it? We did, with the exception of I was 41 and Julie was 40 by the time we accomplished.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Where we basically tried to retire for the first time. We failed at it miserably. But that was it. I mean, we had worked our, 20 years and we had accumulated enough paid off rental properties that were cash flowing that if we chose to, we could just live off the cash flow from our rental properties. We could have done, and I'll tell you for sure, we could have done it faster. Look, that we could have for sure done it quicker, but it worked out. And we, at that point, decided that we weren't ready to retire. We had a lot more to offer. And so we, instead of, kicking back, we actually kicked it up and we ratcheted all of our businesses and our ambitions and our goal setting to the next level. And we've since done that subsequently to the point now where we are. So the moral of the story of what I'm trying to tell you is is that the folks that are finding us for as elite coaching clients, especially those that are in Julie and I's schedule personally, they're definitely folks that want to follow a same pattern to where they wake up in the morning, they no longer have to, they don't want to have to think about a closing. They don't have to think about a price change or a lead follow-up or they want to get to the point where before they're retired, while they're still young or youngish and able to enjoy the fruits of their labor, that they can live off their cash flow. Now, all of them, I don't think any of my clients, let me think about this. I don't think any of my clients have aspirations of simply retiring from real estate, but what they want to do is they want to retire from the financial stresses that real estate often introduces to your life in terms of cash flow, in terms of market cycles, in terms of buyers changing their mind. They want to remove the burden of ever having to think about the monotony and the ongoing stress of having to earn money. And so you could see Julie, and she's agreeing with me. And Julie actually had how many coaching calls today? 4?
4. Yeah.
4. So as I was, I don't have a particular plan for our Friday shows. And this is what,
okay. All good. No, it resonates with me too. Now you've recently added quite a few private coaching clients. A lot of mine I've had for quite some time. So we've been working on exactly what you're talking about on different levels for different people. But I would agree with you. It's getting out of the have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it, albeit at the highest level, because I would say by and large, our private coaching clients are operating in real estate at pretty darn close to the highest level. Not in every case, every time. They still are working on specific skills. Maybe when they have to compete for a really big listing, we have to have a strategy session. There's different things, but generally speaking, they've got the real estate mousetrap figured out. It's the rest of it.
I'm not going to completely agree with that, respectfully, my dear, because I will say they have the ability and the desire to have it figured out. But the ones I've taken on, with maybe a couple of exceptions, they don't have it figured out. They need to have it ironed out. They don't have enough lead generation spokes. A lot of them are centers of influence.
Well, I agree with you. They don't. What I'm saying is, conceptually, they know, like
intellectually,
you call them in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and you say, "Explain to me what the spokes in the wheel model is."
Right.
Are you following it? It's not that they fully optimized it; it's that they understand it, and now they need our help and coaching to fully deploy and take advantage of all of those things working in their head. You don't have to explain, for example, what you did, but you do have to still remind them to use the pre-qualifying script all the time with everyone. But yeah, they're looking. So the difference is they have all the bits and pieces. They've got the ingredients. They understand the recipe. Now it's mixing it at the highest level every day and seeing that next stage where the desire is to be able to do what you do want to do, when you want to do it, with the people you want to do it with, whenever you feel like it, at the highest level. Well, and that is possible to achieve. In fact, I would say for most, obviously helping clients to achieve their goals, your buyers and sellers, but why'd you get into real estate in the first place? So that you could one day do what you felt like doing when you felt like doing it. You give the example of, I can't remember which podcast you were listening to, one of the wealth building ones, where they said, I know that I have arrived to that point because I don't really have an alarm clock anymore. I get to sleep in. I get to get up whenever I feel like it. There is a level of freedom to that. And I do appreciate that thought. And I think a lot of our elite coaching clients are, getting to the point where, I want to see the path to that. Show me how to get there and use real estate as the avenue where I can achieve that. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And they know that you and I are not full of shit. They know that you and I are practical and tactical, and we've actually done it. And we've taken ourselves, our first year in real estate, this is documented, we sold over 100 homes. With pendings, we sold 103. And I'll tell you guys the real story of just something that, I mentioned before. Julie and I have talked about this before, but it's important so you understand the depth and breadth of what we did in our real estate careers. So we did sell that many homes. Julie and we didn't have any assistants or staff, and we operated like that for maybe 2 or 3 years. And then we started going to real estate seminars. Then we started listening to gurus. Then we started, we were real estate famous back then because no one had ever done what we did. And I don't think it's ever happened before, or it didn't happen before, and hasn't happened since. And we are RE/MAX agents, and RE/MAX gave us a lot of attention. We were on different stages and whatnot. So we started going to these different seminars and events. This was about the same time that marketing and branding and team building. This is before Gary Keller's book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So this is in the 90s. So this is when all this stuff was really spinning up. And Julie and I, of course, were seduced into doing it. I mean, we were at the point where we were selling, between 100 and 200 homes per year consistently. At that point, we may have had like an assistant and a half, someone to help transaction coordination and whatnot. But we were running massive profit margins. So we would make, $600,000. Now you got to remember this 600,000, if you were to look at that today, would probably be the equivalent of $1.5 to $2 million. But we are keeping before taxes like 90%, because we
We're
were
doing all the work. Yeah.
well, it's because we were driven by the goal of essentially having high profit margins. We were willing to do all the work. We were willing to make sacrifices. We were willing to do whatever it took. So we had high profit margins. So we'd buy rental properties. And what we would do is to force ourselves to not get off that mission is we would always try to be in contract on a rental property that we had to close on in the next 90 days. That way we were always under pressure to save up for the down payment, get the mortgage done. And we were very consistent with that until we started getting seduced into the whole brand building, team building, and all the rest of it. And so we ended up with having, and there's pictures of this online. It's kind of funny when I look back. We ended up having like 15 or 20 people working for us. We had 7 or 8 buyers agents. We had, a listing specialist. We had 2 transaction coordinators. Some months we were closing 20 to 30 deals a month. All this was going on. And I'll never forget, we were living in this big house in New Albany Country Club, and we were all like, oh my gosh, we've made it. 2 new BMWs and blah, blah, blah. So our accountant, Fred, would come to our house and have us sign our returns. And he came to the house to sign our returns. And he had been doing our taxes since our first year in the business. And he showed me that our income from our first year in the business had quadrupled or something, our revenue, right? And we were winning all these plaques and trophies, and people were giving all this attention. And oh my gosh, you guys are the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then Fred had brought our return from our first year where we didn't know what the hell we were doing. What turns out we did. And the fall in the years, that year for that return, after we started doing all the marketing and branding and the team building and all the rest of it, and our net income was actually less than it was our first year back when we were just still figuring it all out. So we'd made
I remember that day. I remember going, how can that be?
Yeah, he didn't say anything either. It was pretty funny. He just showed us bump, 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 and bump, bump, bump. He went like click, 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 and click, click, click. And it was like, wow. And it was staggering. So what we then had to go through is the deprogramming of a lot of the same stuff that you guys are struggling with. Why do we have this expensive CRM that we're not using? Why do we have this fancy ass drip campaign? Why are we doing all this direct mail? Why do we have 14 lead generation websites? Why do we have all these funnels? What is all the point of all this crap that we've been doing that everyone has told us that we have to do? And if you guys want to take your business to the next level. So we were playing the game originally of net profit, buy rental properties, produce cash flow. We become rich where our money works for us and we no longer work for our money. And what we'd accidentally done is we slipped into playing somebody else's game. And the other game that we started playing was the industry's game that loves to seduce agents and manipulate them by their desire for recognition.
Well, it's recognition.
Right.
Yes, because it leads you to the belief that all good things come by doing more volume and more units and bigger team, and everything has to explode exponentially or you're not growing. And it's easy to believe that. I mean, why wouldn't 300 deals be better than 200 deals?
After all,
because you get another plaque.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we had earned the Lifetime Achievement Award? I don't remember what it was, by our like 3rd year in real estate with Remax. Maybe it was Hall of Fame. I don't know. Anyway, really nice plaques.
Yeah.
So we basically, without knowing it, got seduced into playing somebody else's game. And the other game was recognition. The other game was huge volume, selling all these millions of houses and millions of blah, 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 blah. Winning awards, being number 1 on the list, being number 1 on this international list. Ego, 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 recognition, recognition, recognition. Nothing about net profit. Nothing. And again, we had that nice little intervention with our accountant, and he pointed out this one thing. And I remember it took Julie and I probably a year to realize that we had gone from producing a lot of profit and staying on mission. Then we got off mission, because then we started saying to ourselves, a lot of the crap you guys say. Well, you know what? The best place for me to invest my money is my business. Bullshit. If we'd taken the money that we'd invested in our business back then and invested it in the S&P 500, we'd have millions and millions of more money now, more net worth now. Millions. It was ridiculous. More rental properties, so all these things. Oh, the best investment you can make is in yourself. What exactly does that mean? I'll tell you what it should have meant. The best investment we could have made is investing in ourselves, reading more about how to invest so that one day,
Absolutely. Yes.
that's what we
I
should have
see
been
this
putting.
manifest, Tim, in like, when I'm doing the normal podcast during the week with our real estate topics, oftentimes I'll go and see what agents are talking about and thinking about online. And one of the most common posts that I see that just makes my head want to explode and absolutely leave the site is an agent will say, I just had a settlement where I made $12,000. I'm going to have $8,000. What should I spend it on? Not what should I invest it in? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Joy just put something to you in chat. So yes, I mean, that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that the reason that Julie and I, this is before our coaching business took off, by the way. So we had this experience. Julie and I were proactively generators running massive net profit, buying rental properties, becoming millionaires. And then we got seduced by a lot of the same things you guys are seduced by. We started playing a different game without knowing it. Jules and I didn't just stop and say, well, we are no longer playing the net profit, buy rental properties, become rich game. All these other people, it was through the Howard Brinton group, we were Howard Brinton stars. They had started telling us, oh, you want to buy your time back, add more staff, add more transaction coordinators, do this, and yeah, your profit's going to drop but you're going to get your time back. And
Also not true.
yeah, that's bullshit too. Because what you end up doing is the time you were spent doing very profitable transactions with your buyers and your sellers, you're now spending trying to retain and replace team members who quit or trying to fix their problems. You go from doing very high profit per hour, things to basically being an adult, running an adult daycare. This is the business model that we had been seduced into believing that you guys are being seduced into believing as well.
Well, they are times 100 because there's 100, there's thousands of more opportunities to lose your profitability.
Well, it's even gotten worse, Jules, because now like when we were selling real estate, it was before you could buy leads from Zillow. Zillow wasn't even around.
Right. That's my point. Yeah.
So yeah, Zillow didn't really start selling leads to agents until 2008, 2009. And we were full-time coaching by then. Yeah. So nowadays buyers agents, they demand a higher commission split. They're wanting you to buy leads for them. Back when we were selling real estate, the buyer agents would be given leads, but the leads would come from the listings that you had. And the listings, we'd run the leads, we'd run, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com sign writers on our listings now generate leads and the rest of it. But they had to call the leads back. They had to work the relationships and follow a pre-qualification scripts with the leads. We did have our buyer agents back then doing exclusive buyer agency contracts. We did run our business basically like, a real business. We wanted to run a business like real business and increase the likelihood, even running buyer agents, that we were going to run a good profit. So here's what I'm telling you. We would then do, and Julie and I figured this out, we would run profit and loss statements on both sides of our business. We split it up, listings and then buyers. And then we would do like, what's the profit we're making on listings? Amazing profit on listings. I or Julie was going on the listing appointments. We had somebody else that would handle the file once the listing contract was signed. Somebody else would handle the transaction coordination. But the profit we were making on the listing side was fantastic. On the buyer side, it was garbage. And it wasn't always garbage, but it became worse and worse. And so as the buyer's agents, we got to the point where we were rationalizing, well, the buyer agent sides are there to pay for the overhead of the business. But then we came to the realization that the overhead of the business was mostly from having buyer agents, which is a little bit of a, dog chasing its own tail type of thing. And so we have lived the same life that many of our elite coaching clients have been lulled into believing is the easiest path to more transactions and more volume. And I'm here to tell you that that is right. If your game that you want to win is the influence game, is the recognition game where you're going to get more plaques, more trophies, you're going to be on lists. If that's the game you want to win at, you can buy your way to more transactions and more volume, but you will absolutely not have any profit. And then we had a real reckoning because we hadn't bought any rental properties for like 2 years in a row. And we were getting older and we were working our asses off all the time, doing different kind of work than managing people than we were doing. And managing people is a lot harder than actually working with buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers are versus running like 7 or 9 buyers agents. I'm telling you that the amount of care and feeding that those buyer agents will need is not the same as managing 10 listings. It's just nowhere similar to that. So we fired all of our buyers agents. We got rid of all of our staff. We stopped doing virtually all of our passive lead generation because we're spending, at one point we were spending, and this is back in the, think about when I'm the generation I'm talking about, we're spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month on lead generation for our buyer agents. We'd gotten to the point where we're so frustrated with ourselves for not getting our buyer agents to be more profitable. We need more leads. We need more leads. We would take the profit on the listing side of our business that should have gone to Julie and I buying more rental properties, and we would put it on the buyer side just to buy them more leads, doing more direct mail, and we had a magazine and all this other stuff. It was so stupid in retrospect, but we were doing what everyone was telling us to do. The gurus, what, you know, the talking heads, the people at the seminars, they were all telling us to do all this stuff. But I wasn't smart enough at the time to realize that they all had a dog in the fight. Their incentive structure for telling us to do all that was because they worked for the CRM company. They worked for the drip campaign company. They worked for the company that was going to then, you know, teach our buyer agents how to sell real estate. They were doing all these things that were not, had nothing to do with Julie and I making that profit. And I remember going to a Howard Brinton seminar, and Julie and I, like I said, were Howard Brinton stars. And I remember sitting on this big ass table, maybe 30 or 40 other Howard Brinton stars. And to be a Howard Brinton star back in the day was the pinnacle of achievement in real estate. If you guys remember that generation, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I remember Howard he had started a Star Power University, and he was teaching all these, you know, he was trying to start all these university classes, and like to train a buyer agent for like 2 days was like $5,000 or $7,000. And he had listing specialist, buyer specialist, marketing. He was doing coaching as well, but his main focus was having agents fly into wherever and do a 2 or 3 day seminar, boot camp type situation.
Live training. Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked. His products were great. And,
yeah.
But it was expensive as hell. And so I remember listening to him say in front of this whole group of stars, because the stars were his primary customers, because they had the teams after all, and they were the ones influencing the other agents to do the teams and add buyer agents and the rest of it so he could get more business. So I remember he was saying, well, you sent your buyer agents to buyer agent boot camp. Now you got to send them to this. Now you got to send them to this. Oh, and his big focus was you have to cross-train everyone. Now everyone in your team has to be cross-trained. Your buyer's agent has to be cross-trained to know how to take listings. Your listing specialist has to be cross-trained to know how to close transactions. Your lead, blah, 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 blah. You guys get it? And I remember thinking to myself, well, that is really stupid, because what I'm then doing is
why would you do that?
I'm spending my profit to train my future competitor. Yeah. And so I raised my hand, and you remember this at this Howard Brinton thing.
You made him mad.
I made him super mad. And I raised my hand and I said to him, Howard, if I do that, if I do what you're asking me to do, I'm just going to train my competitor, a future competitor, and I'm training my buyer agent to now be my listing specialist, which means I'm going to now have competition all across the world. Why would I do that? And I had never seen Howard mad in my entire life. And in front of everyone, he got super pissed at me because I told the truth, and because he and his game was not in alignment with what ours was. Our game was to be independently wealthy, where we no longer had to work for our money and money was working for us. His was more production, more units, more recognition. You guys get the difference? How many of you now, and this is true with a lot of our elite coaching clients, though I have to say quite a few of the new ones I've taken on haven't been seduced. They were a lot smarter than we were, Julie. They hadn't been seduced by this, you know? Yeah. But they are now to the point where they have, probably from listening to the show, a lot of them are longtime podcast listeners, but they've been watching from the sidelines as a lot of these big mega teams blow up. And it breaks my heart, because a lot of these big mega teams who don't have the luxury of having actually done proactive lead generation, built very profitable businesses, then done a team and then busted the team up and gone back to the original way of doing it. They haven't had that learning curve that Julie and I had. So, and this is before we started coaching full time. So they don't know what I'm saying is true, because they've only experienced the real estate market during one cycle, which is mostly in the last 10 years or less. So they've only lived in the buyer agents, build a team, you know, the buyer leads, the whole thing. That's the only market. Branding, marketing, more social media. That's the only world that they've ever known. They've never known proactive lead generation. They've never known running profitable businesses. They've always believed, well, if I got profit, I'm going to spend it on my branding, or I'm going to spend it on more training, I'm going to hire another coach. That's the only thing that they've actually known, and they haven't known another way of doing the business. Well, a lot of my coaching clients that I've taken on have watched all of this watched these people go through these arcs and decided that, because again, I think we've been the elixir to a lot of that stuff on our show and our book and all of our, we've done 8,000 podcasts now. If they've realized that that's not the game that they want to play, because the winning of that game sucks. It's just more recognition, more overhead, and you're stuck in the hamster wheel forever. You're never.
And you still have to do all of the work that comes with it too.
Right. Well, in our day, Julie, people would say, I'm going to build my business and sell it.
I know.
Who buys a real estate practice? Nobody does. They don't sell.
No.
So.
But we all wanted to believe that back then.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's the reason that we were rationalizing doing it, because you'll build your business and you'll sell it one day and that'll be part of your retirement. And a lot of people still believe that. So why am I telling you all this? Because I'm trying to educate you guys and give you permission to, and I realize in the world of the real estate, in the real estate realms space, Julie and I are literally the only people that are saying what I just said to you guys in the last, 30 minutes or so. We're the only ones that are talking like this, because we're the only ones that don't take sponsorship money and our opinions cannot be bought. Everyone else is basically being sponsored by somebody, or maybe a little bit less salacious or conspiracy theory like, or they just don't know any better. And the reality of
some of them never sold real estate, so how would they know any better?
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's a whole crop of people out there on YouTube coaches that have never sold real estate before. I mean, Julie and I have sold thousands of homes, and then we were at a Howard Brinton event, and Howard announced his coaching program, and we didn't know what coaching was. Never heard of it before. We didn't have any real estate coaches. There weren't any real estate coaches in the industry.
Wasn't a thing.
And long story short, people started asking Julie and I to coach them, and we said, yeah, okay, without even knowing what it was. And that was the start of our real estate business. One of our original coaching clients are Michael and Robin Gordon. And if you guys are in Philadelphia on the main line, they are the #1 agents in their marketplace, and they always have been. And if you ask them why, they'll say because of our coaching. They sell luxury real estate. They've sold, I'm sure, billions of dollars of real estate by now, but they were one of our original clients. And occasionally I coach Michael. They're at a different point in their lives and their careers now. They're most focused on retirement, and they've been able to squirrel away enough money that they're going to be able to have that as an option. Most agents never retire. What moral of the story here is these different arcs that you basically follow in your career and your life. You have to choose the outcome that you want. And if you find yourself on this journey where you're playing a game you no longer want to be playing, you're going to have a hard time. Took us a year to detach from that, because you feel a little bit like a failure. You'll say to yourself, well, I couldn't make the team work. My profit wasn't there, and blah, 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 blah. And you blame yourself. You think you're inadequate. You read more books, you go to more seminars, you hire more coaches, and you still can't make really the numbers work. The numbers work like they're supposed to work if your game is to sell more units and do more volume. It's not working if your game is to win the becoming wealthy, rich and then wealthy game, which is what ours was. So what we did without knowing it is we assumed, stupid us, assuming more units and more volume would equal more profit, which would equal more net worth, which would result in us being rich where our money was working for us and we no longer had to work for our money. We didn't stop to actually interview the folks that we were listening to find out if they were where we wanted to be. We just assumed they were. We didn't actually stop to say, hey, Mr. Coach, hey, Mr. Guru, hey, Mr. Howard Brinton Star, do you actually still have to sell real estate? I mean, I get you got the fancy watch, you got a private plane, and some of these people have their own jets and all this. But if you chose to no longer work, if you just woke up one day and said, I want to do pottery all day, could you? Had we done that, we would have realized that, I don't want to pick on any particular Howard people, for example, but a vast majority of them are still selling real estate now, well into their 70s and their 80s in some cases. So that's the truth. They were playing a different game. And I don't know if that's the game. That's not the game that we wanted to play. We got seduced by it. We stopped playing it. We went back to our original game. And I wish we hadn't I wish we hadn't gotten derailed. That was one of the biggest professional regrets that I personally have, is that we did get sidetracked. We did get seduced by the wrong game. And we lost 2 or 3 years where we could have been buying a lot more rental properties, investing a lot more in the S&P 500. I mean, I beat myself up to this day for having been so dumb to believe that. And when you guys hear the vitriol come out in our voices, especially in the podcast, that's why. We don't want you to be dumb like we were.
Don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb, right? That should be our new
Don't be dumb. Well, but it is very counterintuitive though, Tim, that you can build real wealth on fewer but more efficient transactions. It's not doing more volume and more GCI at a certain level. Now, if you're only doing 3 deals a year and you're calling yourself a real estate full-time professional, yes, you need to do more deals. But at a certain point, more deals and more volume does not equal more wealth. It can equal actually less wealth, more expenses, a lower net, that is counterintuitive. And I think that there are not that many people at the top that have actually done it who would know that, who also are in the coaching space to enlighten everybody that,
Well,
don't be dumb, as we would say.
let's put numbers on. First of all,
Sure.
a wise man learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others. Learn from our mistakes. But just to put numbers around it, the average brokerage, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, had a net, a profit margin of around 2 or 3%. So I want you to think about that. You're a broker who you think's making all this money. Their total amount of money that they're making profit, and this was like 5 years ago, was 2 or 3%. Back then, 5 years ago, and the last time the survey was done was during the COVID boom. What would that have been, Julie? 22, around there? And that margins then that teams were making was 12 to 15%. And then as the COVID helium started to leave the balloon, then what happens? It dropped to 8%, now 7%, 5%, 4%. And now what I hear these the people, the coaches that are trying to tell you to, follow that same broken business model, they're saying that, well, if you're making 4%, you're still doing twice as good as the brokers are. That's what's happened. So to Julie's point,
That's such a low bar.
it's ridiculous. I'll make it real. I think hopefully make it clear. So you can run a business where you maybe have one assistant, transaction coordination person, a very manageable business. And let's say in most markets make $250,000. And from that $250,000 after business expenses, after even broker splits, let's say you're clearing 220 grand before taxes and personal expenses, like I said. So 220 grand. If you're in an office, that's what you're doing. You're just keeping your head down. You're focusing on your listings. You're picking up some expired. You're working your centers of influence and past clients. You're running a very profitable business. But in your orbit, down the hall is a big agent. Oh, they're a big agent. They have a big team. They have a freaking billboard. Did you see their moving truck? Oh my gosh. Did you see their new logo, their new website, their buyer agents? They're all peacocking around town. Oh, I went to a convention and they rented out a private ballroom for all of this. And if you look, as I have countless times, at what those big teams are netting, they're netting less than an individual agent. So a big team, remember the numbers I just told you, the actual person running it, the Tim or the Julie, $1 million in GCI, let's say, they're making probably 100 grand, and that's at 10%.
That's very true. Yes, we've seen lots of models like that.
Lots of models. And it's not just from the last 3 years when the real estate market's been in a depression. It's been like that for a long damn time, but nobody tells the truth about it except Julie and I.
It's not just that their net is crappy. It's also the level of stress that they carry around on their shoulders over it, because they are thinking about their team and they're thinking about their lease that they're stuck in for the next 3 years. They're thinking about all of the extra bills that it takes just to run that team and house that team, especially if they're in a brick and mortar situation where, you got 10 buyers agents. Well, you're going to need at least 3 or 4 office spaces for them. And you got to have places to meet, and you've got utility bills, and you've got to, some of them are paying for all of their cell phones and their computers, and, the list goes on. It's not just that their net is terrible. It's the stress and the years that they're shaving off of their lives as they do the deals, and the liability, some of them.
And they're all saying to themselves, "Oh, I'll somehow figure out how to save. There'll be a big transaction where I'm going to save that money, or
I'll save off my next listing." Right?
Exactly. So the plan, again, I will say this, and I mean this with all sincerity. If you're listening or watching us right now and you're realizing you've been stuck in this sort of downward, adult failure spiral, which is what a lot of you guys are caught in, and you are blaming yourselves, I'm here to tell you, stop blaming yourself, because it's honest to God, not your fault. It isn't. It is only your fault after you listen to us. You admit what we're saying, is true, and you don't want to experience that any longer, or you are not wanting to experience it in the first place. So what we're saying is true, and you're just not going to follow that beaten down business model. Because what's happened is the business model did work sort of, kind of a long time ago, but it's not working now. commissions of, what's happened with commissions, the downward pressures on different things. But really what's killing the profit margins of these teams are the expectations of the agents that are the buyer's agents primarily. They've sucked all the profit out of most transactions. And if you want to build a profitable business model with buyer's agents, you can't pay them any more realistically than 30 or 35%. That's to them. And most agents aren't going to work for that little. And why? Because if there's a $10,000 check that comes in, most of you guys are buying leads. If you're a Zillow agent, you're paying 40% for that buyer lead. You're paying your broker, you have fixed costs, all the rest of it. If you're trying to pay that buyer agent 50% just in order to attract them to your team because everybody else is, and you're paying 40% of your lead, that leaves you 10%. I promise you're losing money on every transaction, but no one's telling you that, because you guys are stuck in these really negative spirals where you don't know how to do it in any other way.
Well, as you would say, they're playing the wrong game. They're chasing the wrong thing. They're chasing the unit. They're chasing the volume. They're not chasing the net profit and the investability of that money that they're left with. They're playing a different game.
And Julie and I, for teams, we created a new team business model that we talk about on the podcast occasionally, where where frankly it's listings based, where you have amazing margins, where you actually can start saving and investing money again, where you're not frankly being seduced by all the ego, branding, recognition garbage, where you're hoping one day enough of your branding, marketing garbage and all your videos and whatnot will somehow equal a bunch of transactional volume. Guys, what I'm saying is true. And if you don't, what I'm saying is true. So a smart man learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others. And you can make a change. And I'll strongly encourage you to make that change fast, because we have been, and we still are at the bottom of the real estate cycle. And we're going to hopefully be pulling out of it in the next 6 to 12 months. And in that time frame, if you decide to follow that same beaten down, broken business model, when the industry takes another step back, because it will, you're going to have lost anything you gained during the salad years. During the profitable years, you're going to piss away all that money trying to keep your business running again. And a lot of you are going to then be, 10 years down the road, and you're going to have to rebuild yourselves again. And that's true with a lot. I get folks that are wanting to join EXP, folks that are wanting to hire Julie and I's elite coaching clients that are our age and older. And they're all saying, they know what I'm saying is true. And they're all fearful that they can't, they can't rebuild their wealth again, because they've had to burn the candle at both ends for so long that they now basically have nothing to show for their previous 20 years of work. These are decisions that you need to make, and you need to be super careful who you're listening to for your advice. And if your game that you want to win at is the recognition game, the more units and volume game, then go play it. Just know that the ramifications of that game are a room full of plaques. You're going to have, you're going to be able to go and do Instagram thing with all kinds of awards and plaques behind you on the wall. Everyone's going to think you're amazing. You're going to have gotten all the freaking recognition you ever possibly could have wanted. But you're not going to have anything to show for it except those damn plaques. And by the way, you can't sell those, so you've got to decide what game you're going to play. If you want to play the smart game that's going to result in you being rich, where your money works for you, you no longer work for your money, you're going to have to play by a different set of rules. And you're going to find that very few people will even acknowledge the fact that the game that they really wanted to win at in the first place when they got into real estate was being rich, where their money works for them and they no longer work for their money. Nobody gets into real estate because they want to build a team. Nobody gets into real estate because they want to have a real estate brand. Nobody gets into real estate because they want to, all the things that come with the current zeitgeist of building your business. They all got into real estate because they didn't want to have a boss. They wanted to be financially independent. Well, you can not have a boss just by getting a license and quitting your normal job. And then you can even get recognition by doing lots of units and lots of volume, and you're buying all your business, but you're never going to be financially independent. So choose which game you want to win at.
But go knowingly.
Yeah, go knowingly. Decide what you want to win at. And then decide who you're going to listen to get there. And understand, when you choose the becoming rich game, you will not find, the air is rare because very, very few people think like this. Our total addressable market in the real estate space, the number of people that Julie and I will appeal to, because we do not tell you guys to do egos things, is very small. But we have no competition, because nobody that we are competing with in the real estate coaching and training space knows what we know, does what we do and have done, and have, you know, the scars to show for it. I mean, after we sold real estate at a high level, then we've since gone on to become arguably some of the real estate industry's most successful real estate coaches. Julie and I have personally done over 100,000 paid one-on-one coaching calls. We have a best-selling book. This podcast is the #1 daily podcast for real estate agents in the nation. I don't even like talking about ourselves because I'm from Ohio and I feel like I'm bragging, you know? But look, the moral of the story is when you're choosing the path that you're going to be on going forward, choose wisely, because it sucks to realize you've been on the wrong path. Julie?
Especially if you take too long to come to that realization. It could be decades for some people.
Yeah,
And to
and
your
it's
point,
sad.
Tim, I like that you kind of freed them from some of the guilt that it really isn't entirely your fault. It's your fault if you don't make any changes. That's true. If you know the facts and you don't make some changes, but it is symptomatic, and it's gotten so much worse with a lot of the social media and like agents that don't do any transactions, coaching other agents that don't do any transactions to grow their team online, like silly things like that, where that person is absolutely in no way qualified to give any advice to anybody. They just aren't. And that's why we always coach you to use your filters. Think about who you're, just because you read something on Facebook, agent page does not mean that it's good advice, right? Just because there's a whole group of other agents coaching agents and saying, oh, well, maybe if you have $5,000 left over from that transaction, never mind the fact that, you still haven't paid your taxes and all the rest of the stuff. You don't actually have that 5,000, but let's say it's 4,000, that you should go try buying leads from this place or that place. Why are you taking advice from somebody like that? Do you have any idea? Were they licensed yesterday and they've done a deal for their mom? Why do you guys do that stuff?
I'm going to show you guys something funny. So Zoe, our daughter,
Oh,
is
I know what you got
11,
out of the
11
cabinet.
and a half. So she had one of her little buddies over at our house yesterday, Skylar. And Skylar was noticing all the podcasting crap that I have all over the table here. And, she knew Julie and I had a YouTube channel, all that. And then Zoe said pridefully, she said, my parents, I mean, what is this called? I don't even know what this is called, honestly, whatever this is called. So
Some kind of silver button channel thingy. I don't know.
I honestly don't even know what it's called. It's something when you get over 1 million subscribers or something. I don't know. Honestly, oh no, 100,000 subscribers. But yeah, so we got this little shiny plaque, and I have to tell you that the level of pride Zoe had in showing her friend that her parents are YouTube, what'd she call us? YouTubers?
YouTubers.
And we have a podcast. It was actually very charming and funny. And her friend was so impressed that we had it's called the silver player button. You know what though? I don't care. I wasn't expecting that. It showed up in the mail. Zoe and her friend mentioned it might be real silver. And I thought, I'll tell you what my first thought was. If this damn thing's real silver, I promise you it's going to get
It's outta
melted
here.
down. But it's not. It's stainless steel.
Yeah.
So yes, the moral of
know.
the story is that's not the game we're playing.
No.
We're
And
we're not.
recognition doesn't pay your guys' bills, and it doesn't make investments for you.
Yeah.
It's fun at the time. I mean, we got seduced by it. It was fun. It was great. I remember sitting at my desk with like 20 transactions on the whiteboard, feeling, like we had all this going on, and going to the award ceremony. And it feels really good because some of those deals were very difficult. And sometimes you have a day or a week or a month in real estate where you do feel like you're getting your teeth kicked in and it's a thankless job and it's so stressful. And then you go to an awards banquet and it's great and everybody loves you. It's easy to do that, but it's unsustainable. And as you get older and you get more experience, and, unfortunately for us, it took a couple of years to live through that, to realize that that's not really going to be fulfilling as you go forward. That's not going to make it so that one day you can do what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it, not just once when you have a day off, not when it's a long weekend and it's a holiday and nobody expects your real estate to be going on, but as you get older and you want to go and do things. Maybe you want to go spend a month in Europe. Maybe you've never even been to Europe yet and it's been on your bucket list for decades. Why would you wait? There is a better way. That's what I was thinking.
Well, exactly. But you don't have to be older to come to this realization.
No.
You can be
Younger the better, actually.
Yeah, the younger the better, because you got compounding interest working on your side. If
Yeah.
you never get seduced into all the ego crap, well, that's our crowd. Those are the people that we listen to our
You're our
podcast.
people.
You're our people. So if this message is resonating with you, you're our people and we're your people. And look, guys, you only live once and you're dead a real long time. And you got to decide how you're going to spend your time on planet Earth. And if you're so addicted to the silver player button, if you're so addicted to recognition from strangers that you're willing to trade the freedom that you otherwise would be experiencing in the future, then that's the game you're going to try to win at. And I have the unfortunate, sad truth for you: you can never win at that game, because recognition, unlike actual net worth, the recognition game, you're always going to want more. And if someone's famous, if someone's they're always going to be somebody more famous than you. They're always going to be somebody with I don't even know what comes after this. I think Zoe said the diamond player button, whatever it is, right? They're always
come up with something if there isn't.
Exactly. There's always going to be people that have more influence, more videos, more likes, more blah, 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 all this stuff. But here's the thing. Here's the nice, definitive way to know whether you've won the rich game is when you wake up in the morning and you need $10,000 or $15,000 a month passively coming in to pay all of your bills. So that if you chose to do nothing that day, which we do not, we're not prescribing that to you, but if you chose to, you wouldn't have to, because you have enough money coming in passively that you no longer have to work again. The financial burden, the monkey on your back, is no longer there. And the amazing thing that we've experienced, that many of our coaching clients have as well, is when you no longer have to work for your money, when you're rich and your money's working for you, you don't think the same. You don't have the same feelings. You don't have the same stresses. You might not even choose to stay in the same town, or vote for the same politician, or wear the same clothes, or drive the same car. You don't realize how much you've been manipulated to try to fit into a mold that is going to be, conducive to you doing more business with, other people that are like-minded, maybe politically bent this way or the other way. You're actually allowing your life to be in the control of others because you're trying to win the recognition game, and the recognition game cannot be won, whereas passive income game can. When you basically, and we are helping all of our elite coaching clients accomplish this goal, when you've got enough money coming in passively, you will know when you've won the game, when the money is coming in passively consistently, then you are financially free. You have then won. And if you choose to go do something else, make pots all day, do whatever you want to do, write the book, travel for a year, you can. But you can't do that playing the recognition and the ego game. You can't. You can't do that playing a lot of the other games that small business owners play, because you're just going to end up, essentially, you're never going to be financially free. And I'll round this up. The product of your business, what you're actually here to produce, what is it? Answer the question. A lot of you are going to say sold houses. A lot of you are going to say happy customers. A lot of you are going to say all these sort of words that are undefinable, right? There's no real definition for any of those things. Your actual profit from your business is profit. The profit you make from your business is the litmus test as to how efficient you are at running a business. The profit is what you then take and reinvest that to where you get rich. Your business is nothing other than an ATM machine. And I realize for many of you that's not true. You have not realized yet that that is the whole point of owning a business, is that it's an ATM machine that then with that profit you buy assets that then produce passive income. Many of you, your business is a way of expressing yourself. It's your creative release. It's your prideful way of saying, look what I've done. You are working on your way towards the point where you are going to realize that those things were just superficial, and what you truly wanted is just to be financially free. You will get there, probably, not necessarily, not guaranteed. Maybe you skip the learning and skip the regret and go right to it now and ask yourself, if I want to be financially free in the next 12 months, 36 months, 60 months, how am I going to do it? Is the model I'm following now going to work? Are the people I'm listening to now, are they actually financially free? Do I know it for a fact? Do they even talk about these types of things? They don't. How many gurus, how many real estate coaches even mention these types of things that I just talked about with you guys? None of them do, because none of them have done it, because they don't think like this, because they're not playing this game. That's all it is, just a game. I'm not saying the recognition game is not it's not for Julie and I, it's not for a lot of our elite coaching clients, it's not for a lot of you, but it is.
It's nice. We're not saying don't go to the award ceremony and accept your awards and be an example to your colleagues, of course. But it's not sustainable for what you want out of life. Who's got your back? That's the difference. There's no CE class called How to Invest Your Profit. because
So
that hasn't
listen,
occurred to anybody. There's not a lot of profit that people are thinking about.
so for
So
those of you who have chosen to text me directly and discuss joining with Julie and I as private coaching clients, um, I frankly have 2 spots left. Maybe I don't. I'm waiting for people to get back with me. But if you want to be in my private schedule, I only want a handful of clients. Julie only wants a handful of clients. Just text us directly at 512-758-0206. And I'm going to tell you, so it's 512-758-0206, text only. But I'll tell you that most of you are not going to want to have the level of accountability and coaching that Julie and I will insist on offering. And so we're not for everybody. And if you're not quite ready for us yet, because you're still working on some more formidable skills and business practices, that's fine. We have the industry's best real estate coaches that work with us that we'll refer you to. And they, by the way, they charge a lot less than we do. Julie and I are expensive. We're highly selective. And when you text me, please text me along with some personal information, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and also information about your business. And then I'll follow up with you, and then we'll have a call, and then we'll interview each other, and then we'll decide if we want to move forward or not. It's you deciding if we're for you, and it's us deciding if you're for us. That's what the process is. But we're highly selective. There it is. That's the only thing I have to say. I want to spend the rest of my professional career only working for people and only working for a small group of people that are that know for sure that their goal is to be rich, where their money works for them. They no longer have to work for their money. I don't have it in me anymore to placate people that just want to have recognition and ego, because unfortunately I know where that leads. It'd be sort of like if you were walking around in the 70s and the 80s really, where everybody smoked, and you know for a fact that that doesn't work out so well. And you knew for sure that a lot of people were going to have horrible problems because of the fact that they smoked, and you couldn't say anything. Like you had been in a time machine, went back in time. Your parents smoked, your dog smoked, your cat smoked, right? Everyone smoked. And you knew for a fact that this was going to lead you to this outcome, and you had to keep your mouth shut. I can't do that. I won't do that. And so that's the reason we're looking for very select people that are looking for a very special type of coach to get them to the point where they're financially free. And that's what we're all about. So if you think that's you, text me directly at 512-758-0206. But I will say Premier Coaching, which is our entry-level coaching program, does offer incredible value at only $197 a month. And you do get a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches, many of which are being or were coached personally with Julie and I. So they're brilliant as well. So
great skill building in that, coaching organization. And by the way, and we don't mention this enough, one of our coaches is also fully bilingual. So if you are more comfortable in Spanish, we also have a coach for you. Just mention that when you text us or when you go to Premier Coaching.
There you go. So listen, guys, this is our Friday show. We normally talk about squids and aliens and
whatever
funny stuff caught our mind. But I'm personally fired up from having had a lot of very intense elite coaching calls this week. And I know you are as well. And that's where my mind's at. I'm so proud. I shouldn't say proud. That's not even the right word, but I don't know. What's another word for proud?
I don't know. Like optimistic, enthusiastic. It's okay to say proud. We are proud of them.
I'm so proud.
You know why you say proud? Because you've seen where they came and where they're going. And you've crossed that bridge with them, and it is proud. It's okay to say that we're proud. That's how I feel too.
Well, I'm happy for them because they're sensing the I think the feeling of freedom that they always knew intellectually, but for the first time, their spirit is experiencing it.
They're seeing their own potential at a higher level.
Yes, and they realize that they have been chasing false profits, PH, that have been led to no profit, right? That's where they've realized that they've been doing. And to have people be part of people's lives when they're having those little breakthroughs or epiphanies is unbelievably rewarding. It's unbelievable. It's like the only thing that I'll say at seconds is when Zoe learns something or when she figures something out. It's that level of happiness, and that's how I feel.
Well, you're witnessing somebody else's aha moment, almost like, well, it sounds too woo-woo to you maybe, but like an enlightenment that you're seeing happen in their mind, their soul, their potential. And what's really cool about that is once you see that unlock, they typically will never go back.
They
to
won't.
how they used to be.
And they're going to change. Their families are going to change.
Yeah.
They're going to have that
Their
wisdom.
futures are changing in front of us.
Generations. I mean, that's what makes me so
Yes.
happy and prideful, I guess. I hate that word. It's a sin, you know.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know what the
But
word, maybe some of you guys are smarter than me and you guys can, I'm sure most of you are, but if you can think of
exuberant, how about that?
exuberant, right. But to know that we're part of their lives and having that immediate impact, and then knowing the impact that's going to have on their generations, where they too will have lived the life of becoming financially free. That tells me that for me is so incredibly fulfilling that I want more of it, but not that much more of it because it's very exhausting and time consuming.
That's right.
So look,
well
I'm
said.
looking for maybe a couple more clients, and text me directly at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, oh, by the way, if you guys are looking for the right sponsor to sponsor you at eXp Realty, we are A, for existing eXp Realties, we're open to co-sponsoring, and B, if you're looking for a broker upgrade, because this is the time of year where agents do it, or if you're a broker and you're done brokering because you're tired of being broke, let's talk about moving your brokerage over to eXp Realty. You as well, please do text me at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. God bless all of you guys. We'll talk with you on the next podcast. Bye. Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. Remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.